Hello, my friends. I'm trying to clean up. Hey, friends, how are you? I hope you're all right there, doing really well. Yes, where are you? It's 4:45 here in North Carolina, and it's really cool. Let me get my notes. I forgot my notes. Well, I'm back. I am back. What a joy. It's Thursday. What are you guys doing Thursday? It's Thursday, but I thought it was Saturday. It's still Thursday. And I cannot believe, like, that week, I don't know, this year it's going really, really slow. But I'm okay with it. So anyway, I hope you're all doing well. I am doing well. The two kids just came from school. So they are right here playing and about to have their tutor and do their thing. And then I'm about to go get my little ones. But before I went to get my little one, I just want to chat with you and really educate you. And maybe you can see, I don't know, read between the lines, the frustrations I get to have as a foster parent. Fostering is one hardest job I can tell you. Most time, I prefer to tell people, don't foster if you're, I don't know, it's a tough road. So as I get to share with you, you can ask me any questions. But meanwhile, I'll share with you a little bit. I've had my little one for what, coming to 3 years, and everyone is like, "Are you gonna adopt that baby?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if she's going back home. I don't know if she's staying. Like nobody knows. But that's foster care for you. And I wanted to give you a little insights why things take longer. Why kids stay in foster care longer most time than expected. You know, and every state is different. But I wanted to give you a little insight, at least from my experience, why it's frustrating as a foster parent, but also anyone else, why kids have to stay in the system longer and longer. When you get into the year, you think, okay, next year, and then next year comes, you're like, okay, next year, and then the third year, you're like, okay, where are things going? And that's kind of where I am right now. Like, where are things going? You know, you show up and wait. But I wanted to give you reasons why they take so long. Not just so long because no one is watching, but just because it is tricky world when you're dealing with humans, but also how many parties are involved that it really, really difficult to control. And especially also when you have to wait on the judge makes the decision and all of us have to wait. So I wanted to give you a little glimpse of what life is as a foster parent, but also share with you, yeah, why things take long, at least from my experience, what I know. So if I'm crazy, you can let me know. But also, if you're in a state or a country where things take a little easier and faster, you let me know how that works because I would like to move to that state or that county or that country where I would love to foster, but also have a little expectation on how things are gonna go, how long they're gonna be, yada yada yada. That is the hard part. So I'm gonna share with you a little bit of my experience. Well, before I go there, I want to say hello, Yvette. How are you? I hope you're doing well. Watching from Philadelphia. I hope you're staying warm. Miss Charlie, Aroha from California. Yes. How are you? I hope you're doing well, and I hope it's warm, and I hope you have rain, so no more fires. Renee, Michigan. I hope you're doing doing well as well. Mary, uh, from Bronx, New York. Good to see you. Always a joy to see you. Xavier, hello, Peter. God bless you. Thank you so much. Denise, Texas. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Truly appreciate you. Chris Black, how are you? I hope you're doing well. Really nice to see you. I like what you're saying, but I'm going to share with you so you kind of know. So when children are taken away from their parents, there is no warning, and most time it happens in the middle of the night. Why in the middle of the night? So the parents don't know, that the police or the CPS is coming after them, to keep everyone safe. So, if other parents knew, they would run away, and they would not able to find them. So usually they wait until they go to bed in the middle of the night, and they show up. which is tricky. And that's why sometimes we get kids in the middle of the night. The other part is they get the kids from school. So the kids go to school, but DHS goes to school and picks up the children. And the parents wait for the kid, and kid doesn't show up. And they're like, what happened? Well, your kid has been taken away by CPS. That's usually how we get kids. Or sometimes if it's death, and death in the family or a car accident, the kids are taken right away, either to the police or by DHS, and they bring them to families as they look for the next of kin. So there are many different ways on how. Also, there are some parents who decide to say, you know what, I'm in danger and I cannot protect my child. So I'm going to put them in DHS or in foster care as I sort myself or find safety. That too happens, So there are many different ways on how kids come into foster care. But for me, I want to share with you why it takes so long. So think about this. If you're a mom or dad and you're struggling with, let's say, drugs, or family abuse, physical, when that happens, when the kids are taken away, usually people take drugs. What do you do? The frustration. Most time they take a little bit more because they are frustrated and they don't know who to talk to. So most time they have to go the other way in order to somehow gain their senses and come back. Not everyone loses their child and the next morning they're like, I'm dropping the drugs that I'm using, or I'm dropping the boyfriend that has been beating me up. No, usually they go all the way in. Naturally is how we respond. When you're angry, you go all angry. And that takes a while for a parent to start. So if they're angry or they use drugs, well, it takes them a little while to get back and kind of find their footing. And sometimes it would take a month or 3. So that means it's taking longer. So usually the system will begin count towards you or towards having your kids when you begin making the effort to have your kids back. So if you're not showing up, or if they cannot find you, well, they have nothing to really hold against you. So they wait until you come back. And once they know you're in the system or you're really trying, then they begin counting. Okay, 12 months from now, we want to make sure that we see the effort you're putting in. If you're living with someone who's abusing the children, to make sure those people are aware or you moved away. So they give you time to start. The other part is, what the state is asking. Sometimes when they take your children, or if they are unsafe, or you're living in a place that is not conducive for the kids, they wait until you find the right place. And sometimes think about, if you're living in a car with your kids, it's not automatic the next day that you get to find a home. If you're struggling for that long, usually it will take you a long time to find the accommodation or a safe place for you to have your kids back. So that really takes time. And remember, they begin counting against you once you start the process. As a mom, if you lose your kids because you are sleeping in the car, there's nothing they can do. They'll take the kids away, but they will begin the system once you come back and say, you know what, I want to have my kids back and I'm going to do everything I can. And so they give you the structure of things that you have to do. So here's the tricky part. If you didn't have a home, if you could not afford a home when you have your kids, like, how do you afford a home overnight? Think about it. Or your kids weren't going to school and there was some neglect because you could not drive, go anywhere. Well, you had a DUI, DEY. Well, you don't get that overnight. Like, it's not like one night you wake up and say, well, I'm going to get my driver's license back. No, it doesn't happen that way. So you got to wait until the parent find a way on really turning around. If it's parental classes, you don't start counting until they register, say, hey, I want my kids back, so I'm gonna go classes. But until then, you're not counting against anything. And that's why things take longer. So yes, they say, like in my state, I think they say in 12 months, the child should be going back home or thinking about adoption. But if the parents, it took them 3, 4, 5 months to begin, well, you're already behind. That means it's 6 months plus the 12 months the state requires. So sometimes that's why they take so long. The other part is, The way the judges work, basically they work when the parents say, I'm going to do something, I'm going to do everything I can to have my kids back in court, so that means if the parents wasn't showing up for a whole year, and he shows up on court date and said, tomorrow I'm going to start. Well, the court has the right to give that parent the opportunity to start. So that means you don't count the last year, you count when they started, you know? And so here's where the tricky comes in. So if the parent comes and says, I'm going to start tomorrow, well, most of the time they don't start at all. They don't do anything. They have to wait for another 3 months before they go in front of the judge. So that means 3 months, nothing happens. On that day, they show up. Hey, I'm going to start next week. Well, the judge has again to give him the opportunity to see, hey, you said you start. We'll give you one more opportunity. Well, that's 6 months down the road, plus the 1 year they didn't show up. So that's what? Almost 2 years? So you can see how things take longer because the court system takes longer as well. It's not like when you miss your court date today that maybe you have a chance next month. No. If there's a decision, you have to wait for 3 months before you can see the judge. So you can see why it would take forever, ever for the parents to really meet the requirements the judge is asking, because the distance, the gap between is just too long. And if they postpone, if they say, hey, your case is continued, it's not like you can go next month. No, that's 3 months. That means in the next 3 months you've got an opportunity to see the judge. And if that 3 months come, here's the tricky part. If that 3 months come and the judge is not feeling well, she will cancel. Then you're gonna wait 4 months to see the judge. Well, hold on, not even that. Also, every parent is allocated a lawyer. The dad or the mom or whoever or the grandparents. If the judge, if the lawyer that day is not feeling well and cancels, well, you gotta wait for another month, not just the next week. You gotta wait for more months in order to see the judge. See how that goes? It's not just one person. It's when one in the line of who is in the line of helping the child misses out, that puts the parent in a whole different time zone. And that's why kids stay in the system so long, because everyone involved has a responsibility, but also the court cannot function without that person in the lawyer, the parent. The other part is there are some parents who show up. They show up for visitation every week. They never miss. They show up on time, but they never do anything the state has required them to do. But they show up. Because they're showing up, well, there's hope, because the social workers and the judge think, well, they're showing up, so maybe there's hope. And so they keep extending the time. Well, they've been showing up the last 3 months. Let's see if they do something. So they keep giving them extension over extension until it's kind of too late, until they try to say, hey, we've given you 2 years and you have not done anything at all. Yes, you show up for visitation, but we have not seen any improvement on the things we've asked you to do. And so that is really tricky. Or sometimes, the parents are doing everything they can. They're doing the classes. They are being tested and it's all negative, but they haven't found a place to live. So that means they cannot have the kids until they have a safe and a loving place for the kids to be. You know, and that is the difficulty and why kids stay in the system longer. Or sometimes the parents are doing so well. They're not taking any drugs, they are showing up for every class, and then one time they try and they test positive. Do you know what happens? It goes back again. We're going to give this parent another 8 to 12 months to see if they will recover or if they won't repeat what is going on. So you can see how it goes on, off, back and forth. And that is what creates the difficulty of why the kids stay in the system longer and longer and longer. you know? Or sometimes the mom, well, the issue is the dad is abusive. So they say, okay, we're gonna separate so to make sure that when the kids come back, the abuser is not at home. So that happens for what, 12 months? And then they find out that this man actually has been coming back in the home. When it gets to the judge, she does not say, hey, don't do that again. No, they say, hey, you've got to prove to us that that man or that woman will not come back in that home. So that means it's the next 6 to 9 months. So you can see how just one small thing puts back that parent way back in line because we are all waiting for what the judge decides, you know? And that is the irony of foster care, that it's really difficult sometimes to know where things go, where things are coming, because everyone is accountable by the judge and affects the timing, As I said, it's not like you can call the judge and say, can we see you next week? No, they are allocated time. And usually it's a gap of 3 months. So when you miss one, when you make one mistake once, so that means you have to wait for another 3 months in order to see the judge. And if the judge decides that you should go back and redo, that means you got 3 more years. Not 3 years, but it feels like you got 3 or 6 more months to prove what you failed. Or sometimes they have a car, the car is working, and the last month before they get the kid, the car breaks down. Well, if the judge finds out, well, then they're going to hold the kids before they give you the kids back. And that is the difficulty of why the kids stay in the system longer every time. So sometimes really, really stupid reasons. And that's the challenge of being a foster parent. Many of you get to ask me, when will your little one go? I can honestly tell you, I don't know. I don't know, because I don't know what the judge is going to decide. That's one. I don't know what the lawyer of the bio parents of my kids is going to decide. I don't know what the bio parents are going to decide to do. One small mistake puts everyone to wait for the next 3, 6, 9, 12, or sometimes 2 years. One mistake. And that's why we tell you the foster care system is rotten, is absolutely rotten in every way, shape, form. That there's no accountability. I wish judges were accountable. I wish we said, hey, judge, if this case goes on and on for no reason, that's on you. I think every judge would say, okay, I'm not going to postpone. I'm going to find a way to make sure that this kid goes back home. And that's the danger, or why kids just stay in the system forever, because everyone has to approve to everybody. The social worker might go visit the parents and find one mistake in their home. Well, it's not like they can just change it the next day. They gotta wait, because the judge is gonna find out, and those notes the judge is gonna know. So that means they're gonna tell the parents, hey, you didn't do this right, so we're gonna see you in the next 3 months. A parent who's struggling, a parent who's really doing everything they can to have their kids back, do you know what happens sometimes? Yeah, they relapse. Just like that. Because the system is just going over and over and over again. Here's the other part that I really don't understand. For parents who could not afford an extra bedroom for the last 4 years, 5 years, now that the kids have been taken away, and now the state requires them, hey, you have to have a bedroom for your kids. You have to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the standard or the standard they give you in order to have your kids back, it's just so up there that sometimes it is impossible for the bio parents to achieve. They didn't achieve what you're asking them the last 6, 5, 7 months or years. How are they going to do it overnight? Have a bedroom or have a house that is big to house everyone, have a job, show proof that they are good parents. Think about that. That's really a hill high to climb. And that's why it takes them so long. It's not like they don't want their kid. They want their kids, but the requirements make it impossible. Like sometimes they make it impossible for the bio parent to have their kids back. To me, that's not really helpful. The other part as well is I think sometimes because the kids are safe and the parents are seeing them once a week or every other week, then there's no accountability where I'm seeing my child every week. What do I have to care? And that drags on and on and on because there's no accountability of holding people who are responsible for that. Nobody. And that's why sometimes we get so frustrated and we don't know what to do because along the line, nobody's held accountable. And for me, as a foster parent, that's why I have absolutely no responsibility. Here's the irony: I take care of my child or the kids 99.9999. That I make sure they are fed, they're healthy, they go to school, and they have all the everything that they need to grow as mature little kids. But when it comes to the court justice, I can never be in court, or they will never ask me anything about the child when I show up in court. Only the social worker, the lawyers, the GL, or the case, the castle can only speak. Me, I have no right to speak. And that's why sometimes we get frustrated. Like, I wish I could voice out why the mom or why my child is doing so well that they need to go back home. Because I have no right when it comes to the child. I have zero rights to say one thing. Even today, if the social worker walked up and said, you know what, this little girl, I'm going to just change her and put her to a different home, I cannot fight it. And I have no right or anywhere to go to complain. No. And that's why our system is somehow rotten sometimes. Like I'm like, the last minute trial, the last minute, sometimes, as I said, I told you, they could be doing really, really, really well. But the last minute they're meeting the judge that last day, their lawyer doesn't show up. Like literally, the lawyer says, I'm sick or I'm not feeling well, and they won't show up because they have no one to represent them. That means the court has to be postponed. As I said, postponed doesn't mean next week. Sometimes it's a month or 3 months before that happens. So you can see how it drags. Just one little small mistake or one person not showing up, like literally the whole system about the child falls apart. See? And that's the difficulty. And that's the reason why sometimes it's hard to give you the answer. Are you gonna adopt Bella? I honestly could not tell you one thing. Is Bella going back home? 100% I can tell you, I have no clue. Because along the way, one human being, one person, social worker, gala, casa, the lawyers, the judge, one. If they don't show up or do what is required, it's postponed. And that is the irony. And that's the difficulty of foster care because the system has so many police. And at the same time, when they don't show up, no one holds them accountable. Like nobody holds them accountable. And that's the hard part. But when the parents don't show up, yes, they're punished. But when the lawyer doesn't show up, oh, come on. We postpone it for the next 3 months. For the parents who worked so hard to get there, huh? No. And that's the difficulty of fostering. Yes, the system is broken in every shape, form you can imagine. And that's why I never have an answer to give you. Because along the way, one person is going to fail, and the consequences are on the child and sometimes the parents. And it's almost like, when these judges and lawyers don't show up, it's like, yeah, I'm not available. I'm not feeling good. The guts it takes, for one human being to hold the opportunity for a child to go back home, And these people have done this for over and over. There's no emotional part involved. Like literally, they just don't care at all. They don't care. Zero care. They see it as a file. There's no human being attached to that file. Now, And that's the hard part of truly being a foster dad. That's the hard part of looking in the eyes of your kid and say, yeah, when will I go home? You're like, I don't, home? I don't know. You don't want to promise. You don't even want to think about it because you know, no, it's not going to be true. And you don't want to be a liar or raise hopes that are not really, you know. The other part is, as I shared with, is like sometimes, yes, the parents get to do everything they've asked them for 1 year and a half. And when they are towards reunification, having their kids, one elapse, one problem shows up and that takes them back, you know. So sometimes I feel like the longer they wait, the frustration, you know, but also that they give up. They're like, I'm done fighting. I can't do this anymore, you know. And for me, being a foster parent, I really get it. I can see where moms and dads will truly say, i I give up because the system is not there for them, you know, not there for them at all. Absolutely. And for the child too, like seriously, you know, not showing up on a court date and they give you another extra 3 months, that's just so unfair, so unfair to the kid, to the foster parents, the bio parents who were looking forward to that day to see the judge, and then they don't show up and you're like, oh. Sometimes I get a text in the morning like, hey, it's court date. And then a few minutes later, hey, by the way, it's been postponed because the judge is not feeling well. Huh? To us, I haven't been waiting for just that day. I've been waiting for 3 months to know what's next for this child. Are they going home? Are they staying? And if they're staying, I need to plan what to do next. But that isn't part of the foster care system. They don't really see that. And that's the hard part. That is the hard part. Why kids stay in the system longer, you know? But also, as I said, there's so many parties involved in the child's life that when one falls through or one fails, everybody fails in some way, you know? Everyone fails. If the social worker does not come with the notes that are truly show the updated of the child, yeah, they might kick it back. But for me, my hardest part is the power the judge has. That is where sometimes I'm like, come on, you know? You've seen this case come to you over and over. No 6 month, no 12 month, not 1 year and a half, 3, 4 years. You get to see it come on your desk. Oh, Mr. Peter Mutabazi, are you again? Like, how do you not say, hey, something's up and this just can't keep going? But it keeps going because one person along the line failed. You know, they give them public lawyers who don't care. They show up when they don't do any work. They just show up on court day. Sometimes I'm on a court day and the lawyer shows up like, okay, can you give me details 1, 2, 3 for your like, wait, you're about to meet the judge. And for the last 3 months, you didn't call the bio parents, you didn't follow up and no, literally. So when they are standing in front of the judge is asking, they're like, I don't know, because they don't care. And so the judge like, you know what? See you in the next 3 months. Really frustrating. So anyway, I'm gonna read some of your questions as I read. Doing great, Gerald. How about you? Okay, let's see. Any questions? What an insecure journey. Yes, really sad. Absolutely sad journey. Have you ever gotten a child that you could not handle? Someone is asking. Yes, I've had children that I cannot handle. So we create a profile of how, you know, what kids I can handle. You know, as I said, I'm a single dad, so I cannot take fragile, you know, those kids who need medication at all times or need a one-on-one. I got 5, you know. But sometimes we get kids and then you figure out, wow, I am not equipped, you know, to handle or to deal with a child. Not because you don't love them, you love them, but you know the best way to give them the best they need is to really go to the place that they need the most or where they'll be helped, you know. Also, there's some kids who are not set to be in a family environment, that they need to be an institution, you know, to help them. You know, mental health is an issue, you know, and sometimes our kids have that. And I'm not trained professionally to deal with that. So sometimes when I have kids who have mental issues that I cannot deal with, I get to ask where they can be put in a place where they'll get the best services. So yes, I've had kids who I'm not able to. Let's see, any other question? Um, let's see, I'm looking. Hey, everyone is in the chat. How is everyone doing? I like that. How is everyone doing? System revamp, yes, please, please, Chris. Are you allowed to force children out of the state for their protection? Example. Chris is asking, can I? Yes, I can foster kids from a neighboring state. This is crazy. Some states sometimes do not have enough foster parents and they have so many kids. So they'll go to the neighboring state and say, hey, do you have foster families that can take kids? So yes, you can. Or sometimes it happens. Like I live in North Carolina, our next state is Virginia. So sometimes there are kids in Virginia that come to live in North Carolina for that reason, either protection or they just need foster parents, but the best foster parents or whoever they can find is in the next state. So yes, that happens. How do you start the process to foster or adapt? I would say never become a foster parent so you can adapt. I think that is the wrong start, because there's no guarantee that you will adapt that child. As I said, I adopted Anthony, and Anthony was my number 12. So think about it. So I had 11 kids. And then Anthony came and he's the one I adopted. I didn't know I could. And then my two that I just adopted, they were my number 31 and 32. So I would say come in as a foster parent, and when that doesn't work, you can adopt, but there's no guarantee. But also there's another way to be a force. There's another way to adapt in foster care by specifically saying, I want to adopt. So then they will place you with children who are available for adoption. It's by the state law that you have to foster the child for 6 months before you adopt them. So you can see, do you like them? Can you handle them? Are you all that trauma and all that? Like they give you 6 months. It's like a trial. I mean, they're kids, but they give you 6 months in some way to say, does this work? Is it a fit? But to come in to foster, hoping to adopt, that I would not advise that, because you don't know. You might foster 10 kids and never be able to adopt one of them, Or you might foster the first child and get adopt that child the first day or the first time. So it is not a world where it's black and white. Like, no, But if you want to adopt, you can, by specifically saying, I am in for adoption. And they will never place you with a child who's going back home. They'll always give you kids whose parental have been terminated and are available for adoption. Hopefully that makes sense or answers your question. Okay, system revamp. Let's see. Sending healing. Oh, thank you so much. Really appreciate. Sharon is asking, do you find it hard to take care of your family and do your professional job? No, for me, all my professional job is to deal with children. I speak on behalf of children. I get to work with companies or organizations that really help kids. Though they are not in the United States, they are in other countries. So I'm still within the world of kids. And so for me, it does not change or get in the way, because I'm passionate for all kids. So it doesn't get in the way. But sometimes, I have to travel, and my job requires to travel. And sometimes you have your kids and you don't want to be traveling all the time. So that sometimes can get in the way, but for example, that's why I've chosen to work within the United States than traveling all over the world. Sometimes I get to do it, but rarely. So yes, it can get in the way. Let's see. Are you planning on adopting other children? Yes, absolutely. As for me, here's my philosophy. I'm going to be a foster parent, but I'll only adopt if I'm the last resort. If they cannot go back home, or if the kinship meaning grandparents, uncles, if they cannot take the child, I want to be the final family for them. So yes, as long as I'm a foster parent, on the backside, I'm also willing to say, if they cannot go back home, I want to be their final family. Does that make sense? So yes, I'm a foster parent, but if there's no way out for the kids, I want to be their final home. Does it make sense? And that's where people confuse it. Forced to adapt. Forced to adapt, that is a tricky word to use, As I said, I would rather go into foster or go in as to adapt. But you can't have both. You can kind of have, but they're not really the same. And also, foster care is not an adoption agency. So just when you go into foster care, it's not an adoption agency. It is a foster agency temporarily, so kids can go back to their kinship or to their family. Adoption is the last resort. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's see. Have you ever had trouble in interference from foster children parents while their children are in care? Have you ever had trouble? Look, every parent, and some of you are listening. Like any parent would fight for their children. It doesn't mean that every parent should fall in love with foster parent. And here's my honesty. Almost 30% of kids in foster care are abused while they're in foster care. So that means they are with foster families as well. So sometimes, yes, the bio parents get to know what's happening. But also, too, when someone else is taking care of your children and in a different way than yeah, you're not going to say, hey, I love you so much. Thank you for taking my kids. No, first, you're not going to like them. But two, the I think the guilt as well. It makes it harder to love someone who's loving your child for your failed job. So I would say, yeah, most time the parents don't, but with time they get really to know you. I could say for me, yes, I know every parent of my child, and I get to really know them so well. But it takes a while. But you have to earn the right, but also show that you are not against them. And here's the other fault. Some of us as foster parents, we are not good at truly standing in for the bio parents. We talk negative about them, or we think they are villains. They are not. And sometimes the bio parents are afraid that we foster parents are about to steal their kids. I mean, it's happened before. There are some parents who fall in love with the kids and say, you can go back home. I want to adopt you. And that's where the bio parents fight back, or sometimes don't feel that they want to be your friend because they are afraid you're going to take their kids. So they have a justifiable right to feel so. I would, if I was a parent, if I was a bio parent and my kids were yanked away from me and I don't know when I'm having them, and they are tossing me left and right. I go to the judge and they say one thing, I be the social worker, and it's just asking me things that I can never meet. Yeah, I'm not gonna like any of them. And that's why sometimes bio parents don't like us. As I said, I gotta win them over. It takes a while. It really takes a while, but it can happen. Let's see. How does children stay in foster care? How long does a child stay in foster care? This is Koreana. How long does a child stay in foster care until parents' rights can be terminated? That depends. It can be 5 years, it can be 2 years, it can be 12 months. Yes. That is the hard part. Like, no one can tell you. So remember, I'll give you an example. If you're a drug addict and you're way far there, or they give you time, they give you time to really think through it. And that can be 12 months. In 12 months, once you come to the judge and say, I'm ready, I want to have my kids back, then you have to go prove that you are taking classes, you're being tested by drugs, and you're being testing negative for at least 12 months. So think about it. Your kid has been in the system for 1 year, and then you show up at the end of 1 year to begin. That's when they begin counting. And then you do it for 1 year, and then the last month they test you and you're positive. Well, it goes back again. So then they have to give you another 6 to 8 months to prove that you will not be taking drugs. So you can see why it takes so long, but how it goes back and forth, because one person, usually my parents, failed. So there's no time. No one can tell you the kids are going back home this time. By the law, it should be 12 months. 12 months. That means the first day the child was taken away, the parents started the rehab right away. Then in 12 months, if they show that they are really improved and done well in 12 months, there should be reunification. But how many parents? You've been taking drugs for five years. How do you wake up one day and say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna start now"? No, It's really a demon that gets to them that never goes away, but also that is really difficult to deal with, honestly. So it's not something that can happen overnight. So some kids stay in the foster care for from 5 until they're 18 because they kept waiting for the mom and waiting for the mom. And then by the time they are 13, no one wants to adopt them. And that's the trouble. And that's why our kids stay in the system longer because of who knows what. What's the strongest piece of wisdom one of your foster children has ever passed on to you? Oh, wow. I think for me, seeing how some of my kids have gone through difficult abuse in so many different ways, but they still have a positive attitude towards the abusers. And I think for me, that's probably the hardest, but also the most wise I can see. You know, that they know something went wrong, they understand, but they still um, have grace towards them. And for me, I gotta learn that to really have grace towards their parents, have grace towards my coworkers, grace towards my dad. I hated my father. I can be honest, hated my dad. If there was one person I wanted to kill, it was my father. I'm not lying. But my kids have really helped me, to love unconditionally and to be there for them, you know? And the resilience too. Like these kids have had the worst, some of them at 5, they have lived a life for a 45-year-old person. The experience they have faced at 5, some people have faced that in the last 45 of their years. But to see them stand up every morning and wake up and want to do something, that's wisdom without having to say one word. Wisdom. And that helps me to do the same before I can complain or I don't know. But to look at my kid and say, wow, the kid doesn't have mom. They don't know what the future is. They're dealing with trauma, but they still wake up with a positive attitude. To me, yeah, that's wisdom. Hopefully that answered that. I'm a foster mom in Australia. I feel many bio parents are treated like second class citizens and spoken down. Yes, absolutely. And that's for me what I would encourage every foster parent. Never really talk bad about the foster parents, about the bio parents, because the society by nature already sees them as second class citizen. Their social workers see them like, hey, are you doing what you need to do? So most of them, they have a guilty sense of, I lost my kid because I did 1, 2, 3, 4. They meet the judge. The judge say, hey, what's up with you? Like there's no place they have to go where they feel like they're being treated well, you know? And that is the difficulty as a bio parent, when you feel that you've laid down what, first of all, you're dealing with the guilt that you lay down on your children. That's every day. You know, the other part, the shame that another human being, another man you don't know, you've never met, another family that you have no connection with is taking care of your family. Think about the humiliation. Think about that. Think about that. So not only are they dealing with their own demons that are dealing with, the society, literally, you know. I am a foster parent and I've met so many of my foster parents' dads, and they don't like it. They're like, I'm ashamed that another man has to take care of my child. And they know, and there's nothing they can do. And for me to be in their shoes and hear their frustration, but also their humility and how they are humiliated is really hard, as a parent, that you failed your kids. Or on the other, when they're calling their parents and say, but mom, you said you would do this to have me back. And the mom doesn't have an answer to say, or dad, because they've been trying, and somehow it's not happening. So yes, even here in the United States, that's how I feel. That sometimes the bio parents, they are more like third class citizens, not second class, third. And they have nowhere to go. They have no safety net, and that's why they got in trouble, because there wasn't someone there to help. Nobody. Go to go, Peter. Yes, Chris. Okay. Wow, that's a long time to live in a limbo. Yes. I mean, sometimes 5 years to live in a limbo. And think about, I mean, I'll be honest, I have a 3-year-old, but in his mind, in her mind, she lives in a limbo. Like she literally, Am I going to say mom today? Am I going to stay? Like she's 3, but she's aware of that, like living in a limbo. Am I going to mom? Am I going to dad? Is a shower coming to pick me up? Like, where am I going? And that's the sad part to watch. Like, wow, this kid wakes up in the morning wondering, what's the next move? And no child should feel that way. No child. And I'm being honest, and I'm sharing as family. That is the reality of foster. Really difficult to explain. Well, thank you. Absolutely. You have had a bit. You have had baby Bella for years. When will her parents' right be terminated? That's the answer I'm telling you. That I don't know. Why? Because they're still trying. As I said, they can try, and one fails and goes back. You know, that's the world. So anyway, that's enough for the day. I thought I can just share with you a little bit why kids stay in foster care so long. Again, it's not. Oh, I mean, the truth. Sometimes you have the parents who are not trying at all. But they're showing up, but they're not trying. One thing. And the judge will still have mercy on them. The judge will still have grace. The judge will still extend. As I said, the parents might not show up or do one thing for 6 months, but on the court date, they show up and say, no, I'm going to do something. That judge will give them an extra 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. And then those 3 months come, they don't do one thing, but they show up. They say, oh, I'm trying. No proof. The judge says, okay, see you in the next 3 months. And the next 3 months, now 6 months. Hey, over and over and over. They really extend grace towards them. They give that hoping something will change. It's not like you walk in and say, hey, I'm going to start class tomorrow. No, some classes you have to enroll, you have to wait. You just can't walk into the drug rehab and say, can you take me now, today, right now? Sometimes you're on a waiting list and wait. So until that bed is available, well, it might be 6 months, but that child has to wait. And once you're there, it depends how long you're going to be there. You might be there for 3 months and then you're like, I'm out of here. Well, that's goes against you. That means you cannot have your kids back. You have to look for another rehab to go, and so you have to show proof. That rehab has to write a report. The social worker has to get it. And if there's one thing that you failed to do, you didn't show up, well, the social worker will find out. And that's a strike. And that's why things go over and over and over. All right, guys. So anyway, thank you for listening. I just wanted to share with you why. Because here's why I wanted to share with you. I went to the grocery store, the same one grocery store we go, and this lady's like, man, when is this kid going back to mom and dad? I'm like, because every time they see us, we're like, yeah, soon. And soon, now we're in the third year. Soon, 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 soon. And I'm sure they were wondering, soon, when is soon? 5 years from now? Oh, yes. And that's why I wanted to share with you. So I'm going to pick up my little one. So I wanted to say hello and share. So, well, you have a wonderful day. Hopefully you get to eat. Again, thank you for being my village. You're my venting place that I come to vent and share, not to discourage you, but to tell you the honesty and the reality of foster care. Sometimes people see the pictures of my kids smiling and oh, yeah, that's true. But there's the ugly part that we don't share with you. And that's why I get to share with you guys. Why? Because I love you and I inspire you so you can also help someone somewhere. But foster care is not cut and dry. It's not black and white. It's gray. And this gray can be gray for miles and miles. So we truly love you guys and thank you for being there for us. And yeah, pray for me. Seriously. We want Bella to go back home. And if that's the case, soon we're coming to third year. So anyway, hope you have a wonderful day. It was good to see you. You have an awesome night. Time to go make dinner for my kids. Bye.